President Trump is leaving it up to White House Chief of Staff John Kelly to decide whether Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will get a final security clearance. The Washington Post reports the Justice Department alerted the White House 2 weeks ago to ongoing issues in Kushner's security investigation. Kushner only has an interim clearance. That still gives him access to top secret and sensitive information. As president, Mr. Trump can give his son-in-law a high-level security clearance if the background investigation goes on.
For more on the developments in Washington, we turn now to Anna Palmer, senior Washington correspondent for Politico and co-author of Politico's Playbook newsletter, which I read every morning. Anna, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's talk about this latest turn in the events. How much pressure is now on Paul Manafort, given the breadth of these indictments?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you saw this week was really the escalation on Paul Manafort. Robert Mueller getting closer every week. Kind of the pieces are falling into place. $60 million scheme that he's, that they're accusing him of. This is one of his closest advisors, who's now pleading guilty. So the pressure is definitely ramping up.
So what exactly do you think this Gates plea gets Mueller, and where does that point him now beyond Manafort?
I think we're still going to figure that out. One of the things about this special prosecutor probe has been how secret, and they've been clamped down on information. Yeah. We have been surprised several times about where this is going, who's pleading guilty, when they're pleading guilty. But this certainly also gets him a step closer to President Trump. This was somebody who was deputy campaign chairman of the Trump campaign, clearly in the know at the highest levels of what was happening there.
Do we have a sense of how concerned the White House is about this?
I mean, I think they have continued to say, we are not a part of this. As you can tell, this is happening before this presidency started. But you have to look at where this is going, and it's clearly coming closer and closer towards the White House, towards potentially Jared Kushner. A lot of people that have been questioned are still working in this White House.
Let's talk about the issue of the school shooting in Florida and the repercussions from that. President Trump has been in what the White House is calling a listening phase on developing gun safety measures. Is there a real potential here for meaningful legislation on the issue?
I think I'm a real pessimist on this. I've been covering the gun lobby and gun reform lobby for over 10 years. It is very difficult to thread the needle here, certainly on smaller issues, maybe banning bump stocks, closing mental health care, mental health issues. You could see something happen. But this concept of what the president has been pushing on guns for teachers is a non-starter for almost all Democrats and a lot of Republicans.
Well, the president clearly thinks his base is in one place on the gun issue. But then what we're seeing in Florida is you have a Republican governor who's actually maybe open to some reforms. Does that give you any inkling of whether the dynamics may be changing for 2018?
I think that's going to be the real big tell here, right? A lot of people, I think, say, oh, the NRA spends a lot of money, and that's why they control this. I don't believe that to be true. I think if you actually look at it, it's because they win elections, because they are able to turn out this base, and that if you see the gun control lobby able to flip some of these seats and you make this an issue, all of a sudden their power crumbles.
Is there any indication that the reaction from students in Florida who are leading these marches is in any way shifting this debate significantly?
I think it's compelling, and clearly it's something that keeps it of mind. One of the biggest issues has been there's been, unfortunately, a series of these kind of mass shootings at schools, and it peaks all of a sudden the news, we're covering it, Congress is talking about it, but then nothing happens. And we've seen that time after time.
There is another looming issue that needs to be dealt with, and that is the fate of the Dreamers and DACA. From the perspective of the Hill, is there anything that is actually going to be done in terms of a legislative solution here?
I think right now the month to watch is the end of March. It is going to be the next time that the government has a funding fight, and that's really where you could see the power of the purse come into play. Unfortunately, the dynamics have not shifted, so this kind of entrenchable, how are they going to deal with the border wall, how are they going to deal with these young immigrants, has not been resolved.
All right, a lot of unanswered questions here. Anna Palmer, thank you very much.